Oh, it's for the little Alfie. What does he have to have a present that big for?
Because he's small and this is his first Christmas. What are you up to anyway, Impy Imp? If you touch them too much, Santa will take them all away, instead of sprinkling them with stardust to make them really real. Then you won't have anything, will you? Not a thing. Now hurry up, or we won't get a magic memory in this morning. We're live.
Oh no! Oh, Dr. Stacy, you're always doing this, Bert, and Santa will see that I've messed about with the presents. Sorry, Santa, I didn't mean to do it, honestly, Santa. If I'm very, very good and sit down here with Iggy. And we want to hear the story about Doctor Banty and his narrow escape. Do you think Santa Claus will forgive me for touching those presents and put stardust on them so they'll get really, really real?
Well, we can try and see. Ready?
Yeah, now you be quiet, Iggy. I don't want to peep out of you.
Magic voices fill the air. Magic memories take us there.
What about this one, Impy?
Let me see. Oh, that's a pretty colour. What does it say? I can't quite see the string. 100% cash. What's that word?
Cashmere. That's a kind of very soft warm wool. You know those soft, pretty sweaters that Mummy wears?
Do you mean the turquoise one and the green and the lilac?
Yes, and I think she has a pink one too. Well, those are cashmere. It would keep Miss Miller lovely and warm on your nature walks, or perhaps when she has to make long journeys on cold days, wouldn't it?
Let me have a see. Oh, yes, it would, my Bert. Yes, it would. It's a nice one.
OK, I'll put it in then.
Yes, please.
Is that everyone, Impy?
I think so. All the pinkies, of course, and Mummy and Daddy and the little Alfie. And I got yours, my Bert. Daddy helped me get yours, so that's all right. And let's see, Miss Davies, who helps with rainbows, and Miss Miller, who helps me with my lessons, Auntie Amy and Auntie Tara and Auntie Ellie. So yes, I think that's everybody.
No, we have missed someone. What about the other miss at Rainbows, Miss Heather?
Oh, I sent her a card.
But Impy, you've bought things for all the other kind misses that help you. Why do you want to leave poor Miss Heather out?
Because she isn't tired, my Bert. She's always doting. Don't come in here without wiping your feet. Don't talk so loud. Don't run in the passage. Don't giggle when I'm talking to you. All the time. Don't. And even when we try really hard to be good, she never stops doing on it just all the time. And I try so hard to be a good girl. She isn't tired, my Bert. She's just scary. You don't like her, do we, Iggy?
Yes, I can see how that would get annoying. But you know, sometimes people pick up their odd little quirks, and they never mean any harm by them. Miss Heather's trying to teach you giggly girls good manners. She might not be going about it the easiest way, but her intentions are good.
What we don't like to do with Iggy, she just makes our tummies go all butterflies, doesn't she, Iggy? She makes us want to try when she starts shouting, doesn't she, Iggy?
Poor Impy. Come over here.
That's right.
There, I'm next to you. Right here as usual.
Yeah.
People can surprise you, sweetie girl. You're only little, and you're going to get bigger and meet all kinds of people. Now, there are a few who are genuinely, absolutely horrible, and I hope you'll not come across any of those. Usually, though, there's always someone nice, even under a slightly scary or unusual outside. I mean, look at Doctor Banty, who you like so much. All the birdies are scared of him, or else they think he's a bit mad.
He's not a bit man. He's nice.
Well, we know that, Impy, but until Great Harry the Buff Orpington Rooster nearly died that time, and Dr. Banty had that really narrow escape when he saved Great Harry's life, the birdies didn't think he had a nice feather on him. But, you don't want to hear about that, so if you really don't want to send a present to Miss Heather, I guess we'll check this lot out, shall we?
No, my Bert, no. I do want to hear about Dr. Banty. What happened about Great Harry, the Buff Orpington and Rooster? We do want to hear, don't we, Iggy? You're being naughty. Come back here, and tell us.
Oh, all right, as it's you. Now then, Impy, sparrows, like Mr. and Mrs. Spicky, they live what we call in the wild. That means they make their own nests, find their own food, nobody looks after them. But Banties, in fact all kinds of chickens, They're a different thing. Those kinds of birds generally live in people's back gardens or on farms. People take care of them, give them plenty to eat, and shut them up at night so that nasty things like hawks, foxes, and tomcats can't eat them.
Oh, you poor little chickens. I'm glad they're kept safe and sound, aren't you, Icky?
That's right, Impy darling. Now, Dr. Banty had a very comfortable life. His owner was called Miss Polly Petal.
Ooh, that's a pretty name.
Yes, it is. And she lived in a little pink and white cottage that was nestled miles away from anywhere, right in the middle of a wood. It was so hard to get to that the milkman, mailman, butcher and grocer had to leave all Miss Polly Petal's shopping and mail at the bottom of her long drive, and she had to wheel her bicycle half a mile to go and pick them all up each morning, and then half a mile back to her little home deep, deep in the woods, where there was nothing but her animals, birds and the wildlife.
How amazing!
Well, I'd have found it very lonely, Impy, but Miss Polly Petal liked it, and so did Dr. Banty. He lived in a nice, comfortable chicken coop at the bottom of Miss Polly's huge garden. Miss Polly believed in letting him do exactly what he wanted. As long as he woke her up each morning and came home in time to be shut up safely each night, he was a free agent, which suited him just fine.
He was a very lucky rooster, wasn't he, Bert?
He was. He had just about everything, including 4 pretty wives.
4 wives? 4? Oh, what did this? That's not fair.
Oh, but that isn't too many at all in the chicken world, Impy darling. All roosters have more than 1 wife. Some have lots more than 4. Why, Great Harry, the Buff Orpington rooster at the big farm, had 10.
10? My goodness gracious.
Yes, but they were always fighting and arguing. Dr. Banty loved his 4 wives, and they were devoted to him.
Did they have names, Bert?
Of course, and they each had a thing they were in charge of. Mrs. Connie was sort of head wife. She looked after all the others. She had the final say if there was a decision to be made. She was also in charge of foraging. The Bantams were always given food, but they were allowed free run of the garden to find whatever else they fancied to eat.
Oh, I wish I could see them.
Mrs. Caleigh was in charge of house and garden. She kept the coop spotless, and the patch where it stood free from weeds and long grass. She prided herself on the Banty's home being as neat as a new pin at all times.
Were they silky bantams, Bert? Silky bantams, like I saw on that farm we went to one time.
Yes, sweetie girl, soft, fluffy, white, silky bantams. And Dr. Banty had a red coxcomb hat. Now you've made me lose my place. Which wife have I got to? Ah, yes, Mrs. Caleigh. She looked after the food, and anything Mrs. Connie brought in was mixed with the golden grain that Miss Polly Petal put out, and turned into delicious stews, hot pots, roasts, or bakes.
And what did the 4th wife do, Bert?
Ah, well, Impy, Mrs. Clearly was the youngest, the prettiest, and the most intelligent, so she got to help Dr. Banty with his work.
How?
Well, you see, there weren't any telephones for the little birdies, so how was Dr. Banty ever going to find out if anyone needed him? But Mrs. Clearly always knew where he was, and she was always at home, so if anyone needed him, they came to the chicken run at the bottom of Miss Polly Petal's garden. Mrs. Clearly would take all the details, then send a quick bird, like a blackbird or a hedge sparrow, to pass on the message for her.
Oh, that's so clever.
It was, and it was a good job too, or it would have been too late for poor Great Harry.
What happened to Great Harry?
Well, it was like this, Impy. It was a Saturday morning just before Christmas, very cold, with the ground like iron, and a hard frost making all the trees twinkle with icicles. The Bantys were sitting at breakfast. Dr. Banty spooned honey, which he had taken from under the very sting of an infuriated Betsy Bebop, over a huge mound of oatmeal, and allowed himself the luxury of a grin before tucking in. His wives nibbled silently, watching him. After a while his beak emerged from his bowl, and his bright, beady eyes looked at them each in turn. "Caleigh, Caleigh, cold as an icicle's bicycle out there today," he said, in what for him was a fairly moderate voice. "Can't see too many of those idiots wanting to come out in this, complaining they have a pain in their little toe, or their feathers are going sky-blue pink, or their beak aches, and oh, what can they do? Beecham's cold and flu. I think I shall be able to put my feet up today, my dears. Now I know you will not like it, oh Linctus and Lemsips no, but you must call up all your fortitude, and bear it as best you can, for the doctor will not be wanted today. He will be staying home. Soap bubbles, senna, and smelling salts, staying home with you."
So silly.
Yes, isn't he? Well, the four wives giggled at this, but do you know, they had hardly finished their giggling when they all cocked their heads to one side, listening. And do you know what they heard, Impy?
No, I don't have any idea. We don't know, do we, Itchy? Tell us.
Well, they could hear a scritter-scratter of 20 little clawed feet, and a squawking and a screeching of 10 agitated chicken voices, all shouting and calling, talking and arguing together at once. And before anyone could make a move to even wonder what was happening, the door of Dr. Banty's bright, orderly little home flew open with a tremendous bang, and in barged, scrittered, scrattered, scuffled, clanged and clattered 10 enormous hens. They were all clad in voluminous feather gowns, cloaks and bonnets which filled the place with dust and fluff, and they were all squawking and squalling at the tops of their voices.
Oh, goodness gracious, I wouldn't have liked that, my bird. I don't like the big chickens. I don't like the way they cluck and cackle. That's why I prefer the bantams. They're little and cute.
You're right. Now, ladies, said Dr. Banty, trying not to get his beautiful white coat creased, or let any of the huge feet scattering everywhere tread on his perfectly polished shoes. One at a time, chloride of lime. What seems to be the trouble? Have you ladies had breakfast? Asked Mrs. Connie. Won't you take a morsel? But she got no further. At the word breakfast, the 10 beaks swooped down on the table, and it was cleared of every last edible thing before you could say McNugget.
Oh, those nasty, greedy old chickens.
Quite. The one thing it had done, though, was stop everyone talking, so Mrs. Clearly tried again to find out what the matter was. What's the trouble, ladies? Does someone at the farm need the doctor? I told her Harry he ought not to have done it, piped up a chicken in a dusty black bonnet.
Oh, shut up, Phyllis. You're always telling him things and he never listens to you, so why don't you keep your stupid beak shut? You shut up yourself, Doris. He never listens to you neither. So put that in your silly beak and try to swallow. Phyllis's head wife. She ought to have stopped him a-doing of it. Only she never stops nobody doing of nothing, because she ain't no use.
He never listens to her. He only likes Lois the best.
That's a dirty lie.
The voices rose higher and higher until a furious row was in full swing.
You're funny, Bert, but they're horrible. The poor bird is going to die before they get the doctor there.
Dr. Banty had had enough. He jumped on a table, seized a long wooden spoon, and thwacked it against the ceiling so that everyone jumped. Vinegar, vimto, and vitriol! Do you want Great Harry to die? Get out of here, all except Madame Dillis. Go back home, you baggages, before I use this on you. Beeswax and Benylin, begone!
Oh, dear. Dr. Banty's very cross, but then I think I would have been too.
I think I would have been, Impy. Well, the 9 wives of Great Harry collected themselves, shuffled out of the hen coop, and trudged home. After that, it didn't take Dr. Banty long to get small, rather mousy Miss Dillis to let loose that the humans had been away, that the help that they had left to look after the birds had skimped the job, that Great Harry had eaten mouldy food and was now very sick.
Oh, poor Great Harry, that's horrible.
Well, Dr. Banty left Mrs. Dillis to make her own way back on foot. His wings had not been clipped, so he could fly and get there much quicker. He had soon arrived at the large henhouse, which not only housed Great Harry and his wives, but several roosters and about 100 hens. It was a sad place, Impy. The hens weren't exactly kept in tiny little boxes like in some places, but they only had a chicken run with very limited space to move around in when they weren't shut in their henhouse. Dr. Banty sniffed disgustedly. Parazone, Ajax with ammonia, he spluttered.
I don't think it can smell very nice there.
Oh, I think you may be right. Anyway, Dr. Banty soon found Great Harry slouched on his perch, looking hot, ruffled, and very unwell indeed. He opened his doctor's bag and took out a huge medicine bottle and a spoon.
Oh no.
Ah, wait, Impy. Great Harry's eyes went wide. Tincture of camphor, tartar emetic, trumpeted the devious doctor. You're twice my size and scared of a teeny tiny drop of medicine? Course not, croaked Great Harry. But as the gloopy green liquid poured into the spoon, he gulped visibly. Dr. Banty strolled casually up, spoon in wing. Great Harry opened his beak to crow, to protest he didn't know what, and the liquid was in and down his throat before he knew where he was. It tasted like all the horrors rolled into one. But Great Harry thought he could already feel it doing him good.
Oh, the daces, clever Dr. Banty. Oh, I hated the medicine. Is he going to be all right now?
Well, yes, Impy, but that's not the end. Just as Dr. Banty put the medicine away and was about to fly out of the door, the light from outside was dimmed, and he looked up in alarm. There, standing in the doorway, looking right at him, was the farmer's wife.
Oh, no!
Oh, yes. Oh, look, she said, what a lovely silky bantam. I bet you wandered in from that weird recluse woman's garden. I hear she keeps silkies. Oh, well, finders keepers. Maybe a hen will come looking for you, and in the meantime, the kids are going to love you. And with that, she clanged the henhouse door shut.
Oh, how awful! Oh, goodness! Did Dr. Banty have to stay there forever, Bert?
He stayed for 3 days. It was horrible for him. He'd been used to a small, very comfortable home and a very cosseted existence. Now he had to live in a huge hen house where it was every chicken for itself. They fought for food, they argued, bickered and squabbled all the day and night, and of course he was way the smallest there, so he was at the absolute bottom of the pecking order and was lucky ever to get anything to eat.
Oh, poor Dr. Banty. Oh, I want to toddle him so bad. I want to toddle him.
Ah, Impy. Great Harry was so grateful to him for helping when he was ill that he was never nasty to him and protected him all he could. But the other roosters in the hen house were big and aggressive, and Dr. Banty was terrified of them. He was worried about his 4 wives and what Miss Polly Petal would think of him if he ever did get back. Would she clip his wings so he couldn't be a doctor any more?
Oh, I hope he did get back. I told Bert to stay there forever. Oh, tell me he got back in the end, my Bert. Tell me he got back.
Ah, of course he did, Impy. Do you remember Mrs. Dillis, Great Harry's wife?
Yeah.
Well, she'd started out for home, but she'd forgotten the way and got quite lost. After 3 days of wandering, she'd finally been picked up by a neighbour, been recognised, and returned to the farm. The farmer's wife had kept the hens shut up all this time because of the cold, and also to get the new silky bantam acclimatised. But she now had to open the door to let in Dillis. Dr. Banty was always on the lookout for anyone approaching the door. Usually they were very wary, not opening it wide enough for him to get out. But this day the farmer's wife was talking to the neighbour, and she wasn't paying attention. Dillis saw Dr. Banty and stopped in surprise. Knowing what must have happened, she hung back a moment to give him time to free himself. The farmer's wife gave her a push with her foot, but by then it was too late. Dr. Banty had whirred past her in a flurry of unclipped white wings and was soaring into the sky.
Oh, hooray! Hooray, hooray, hooray! Oh, we're so glad. Oh, E.T.
Dr. Banty's wives were overjoyed when he came back to them safe and sound, and with a lot of stories to tell, after he'd enjoyed a very long soak in a bird bath and a very large meal. When Miss Polly Petal came to shut up her 4 hens that night, she saw that her beloved rooster had returned, and she was very glad. She didn't clip his wings, so he could still fly around the woods, doctoring anyone who needed him. And do you know, Impy, what he did for Great Harry got to be widely known. It's not everyone who is brave enough to go right into a human-owned hen house and risk being caught for good to save someone's life. So the little fledglings weren't so eager to make fun of him from then on. And kind mother birds offered him a cup of tea when he doctored their babies, because they could see the heart under his slightly quirky doctor's coat, and they knew it was made of pure gold.
Bert.
Oh, Impy,
No, Dr. Banty.
oh, you're hugging me to pieces.
And I love you. And I love your story so much. Oh, so much.
I love telling them to you, Impy darling. Now come on, let's get the shopping checked out. I want to get dinner started before Mummy, Daddy and the little Alfie come back.
Would you sit in, my bird? Just would you sit in? Should we just have a look at this page?
Plants? What for? It's no good buying Mummy house plants. She just forgets to water them, and Muggins here will have to do it.
No, not Mummy, silly. I was actually thinking about Miss Heather. She likes house plants. She likes them all gardens and nature and things, and she has lots of plants in her classroom. So I was thinking, look at this pretty one with all the pretty trailing leaves on. Oh, there was another one down here somewhere. Where was it, is here, with all the pretty berries on it.
I like that one, that's pretty, but let's just see what else they've got.
Oh, all right, you come and help me, Icky.
Don't go so fast.
I'm not going fast. You just can't keep up. That's your problem.
How am I meant to look at pictures that quickly?
Oh, it's easy. See how pointy it let you? We can look at pictures fast, can't we, Icky?